Hello again, folks. As I'm sure you have anticipated, we are going to start Lesson 3 right away today as well. So go ahead and open Path 3 from your email or download it from the website and open it in Adobe Illustrator. We are again going to be using the Dreaded Pen tool over on the left-hand side of your screen. Select the Dreaded Pen tool. I'm again going to be using black ink so that you can see it. And I'm going to go over here and bump my stroke weight up to 6 so that you can see it easily on the page. If you notice, when you open Path 3, I'm going to zoom out a little bit here so that you can see that there are two parts. There's a figure A and a figure B. Then below, we will again in our work area be replicating figure A and then figure B. So up until now, we've been doing straight line pathways. Now we're going to be looking at curved line paths. So the technique before was just to click and drop anchor points, and the Dreaded Pen tool connects them for you. Well, the Dreaded Pen tool is still going to connect our dots for us, but we are going to be clicking and pulling those anchor points in the direction we want our line curve to go. Okay, so looking at figure A, we're going to try our first pathway here, and I'm not going to go directly over the paths and the anchor points that they have selected because that's going to kind of mess up our own Dreaded Pen tool. So I'm going to do mine directly below A so you can see what it looks like. So you can see my little snap to guide has come in, that little green line, and I'm going to click and pull up and to the right because that's the direction I want my curve to head. So I'm going to click and pull up, and so you can see those little handlebars are what we call those little dots on the end of the line there. I'm going to click and pull up and go up and to the right here, and then I'm going to release my hands, okay? So we've got our first anchor point dropped, and the difference is when you click and drop an anchor point, it's a straight line. Like Illustrator knows that you're going to connect it with a straight line. But if you click and pull, then Illustrator knows that you want some sort of a curved line to happen. So I'm going to go to the end point where I want my curve to end, and I'm going to click and pull down and watch my curve extend. And see, as I like whip it back and forth, it'll change like the slope of my curve here. I can make it pointy and crazy looking, and I'm going to drag my handlebar way down here, and then I'll bring it back in. But you can see how your handlebar affects the slope and the size of the curve that you're creating. So I'm going to unclick now. I'm going to release my pathway there. So you can see again that Illustrator has connected my dots, but instead of a straight line, now I have a curved line. Okay, so I'm going to come back and I'm going to delete this curve that I've created, and I'm going to go and do it again for you so you can see it. So I'm going to grab my Dreaded Pen tool. I'm going to click and pull up and to the right, and then release. And then I'm going to click and pull down and make my first curved line. And you might say, well, it doesn't look exactly like theirs does. That's right, it doesn't look exactly like theirs does, but I can make it look like theirs. The difference is over here in these two arrows tools here, these two selection tools can make a big difference for you. If I click on the black arrow tool, it selects my entire curve, all of it, both of its anchor points and the pathway that connects them. If I click on the white arrow tool, this is what we call the direct selection tool, and if you hover your mouse over it, it'll say direct selection tool. This selection tool allows me to click on my anchor point separately from my pathway and move those around. See how I can click on it and move it in? I can also grab my handlebar and kind of pull that back where I want it to go, and I can click on this handlebar and pull that back where I want it to go, and then all of a sudden my curve is looking a lot more like the one above. See, I can grab that anchor point, pull it down a little bit so it's even, and now the curved line that I've drawn below here looks a lot like the one above. Okay, so using your direct select tool after you've drawn your line, like let's say you make a curve and it doesn't look anything like you want it to look, well, that's okay. You can always go in with the white arrow tool on the left here and move those pathways where you want them to be to make them look exactly like what you want them to look like. Okay, so I'm going to delete these pathways that I've done and go back one more time, and I'm going to do the single curve A, and then I'm going to draw it below. So again, to review, I'm going to click and pull up and a little bit to the right, and then I'm going to click and pull down to complete my curve. Okay, and that's my first curve there. I'm going to go down here below in my workspace, and I'm going to replicate that. I'm going to click and pull up. Oh, but wait a second. I'm still connected to what I did before. That's right. If we didn't learn our lesson the first time, I'm going to hit Command Z. I'm going to go back up here. I'm going to click to an arrow tool, then click back to my dreaded pen tool. And now I'm going to go ahead and click and pull up, and then release, click and pull down, and release. Okay, I'm going to switch my pen tool to my arrow and back, click and pull up, a little bit to the right, click and pull down. And I have successfully completed 2 single curves with the dreaded pen tool. Now I'm going to switch my pen tool back to the arrow and then back again, and I'm going to try and conquer B up here. Okay, looking at part B. I'm going to do the same thing that I did above, but I'm going to change my technique slightly below here. So I'm going to put my pen tool on this first anchor, and I'm going to click and pull up a little bit to the right to get my first anchor point. Then I'm going to click and pull down because I want my curve to finish itself there. Okay. Now that I've got that, I want my curve to continue heading in a downward way. So when I come back over here, I'm going to click and pull up because it pulls it. Okay. If you click and pull down again, it'll go like that. Just switch your directions back up to the right direction. Okay. So now I'm going to click and pull down because I want my curve to appear here. Click and pull down. Okay. Move to the next one, click and pull up. And then finally click and pull down. It's just a pattern that you repeat. It's just a process. So if you get hung up on it, if it doesn't look like you want it to look, click on it here. Here's my curve. Doesn't look exactly like the one that I was trying to replicate, but it's my curve, and I'm going to make it look like I want it to look. Okay? So I'm going to delete that by hitting the delete key on my keyboard. I'm going to go back with my dreaded pen tool, and I'm going to try it again. So we always know that we're going to click and pull in the direction we want our curve to head when we start our curved line. So I'm going to click and pull up, okay, a little bit to the right. Then I'm going to click to finish it and pull down so that I can see my whole curve. Then I want my curve to head in this downward direction, so I'm going to click and pull up. I'm going to go to the other endpoint, click and pull down, click and pull up, click and pull down. Okay, so I've got my first long up and down curve created. So I'm going to go down below, and I'm going to try and make that myself. So I'm going to click to my arrow tool, click back to my pen tool, and get started. I'm going to start over here. I'm going to click and pull up a little bit to the right to start my curve. I'd like my curve to start here. So I'm going to end it and click and pull down and see how my arch starts there. I'm going to go down here over to where my next anchor point would be, and then I'm going to click and pull up. I'm going to go down where I would want my next curve to end, click and pull down, click and pull up, click and pull down, up, and down. You can make your curves as close or as long as you want them to be. Click and pull up, click and pull down, click and pull up, click and pull down. And that's going to be the end of my curve. Okay, so experiment with this technique a little bit. It's not as easy as I'm making it look. So practice it. Make it your own curve, but get comfortable with the way that the curved line feels. Okay, so practice it. Practice your curves up and down till you get comfortable with that.